with ZipRecruiter.
Blue Origin, the private space company, will try again during the overnight hours to launch its enormous New Glenn rocket after scrubbing its first try before dawn.
Propellants had been loaded and the countdown clock had been started and restarted. But with the end of the launch window in sight, Blue Origin Vice President Ariane Cornell announced,
"We are standing down today's launch attempt to troubleshoot a vehicle subsystem issue."
The company hasn't said when it'll try again to get its 30-story tall rocket off the ground.
ABC's Jim Ryan. Senate confirmation hearings begin Tuesday for President-elect Trump's cabinet nominees. Up first, Secretary of State nominee Marco Rubio, Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, TAP for Homeland Security Secretary, and Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary nominee.
Watch nominees try to strike that balance between being the counterpuncher that we know Donald Trump likes, but also being the moderating kind of not necessarily hot under the collar kind of lawmaker, member of the cabinet that some of these moderate Republican senators might be looking for.
ABC's J. O'Brien. President-elect Trump to be inaugurated this coming Monday. Preparations have long been underway. Fencing a big part of it. Matt McCool of the U.S. Secret Service.
More than 30 miles of anti-scale fence will be used for the inauguration, more than any other NSSE ever before.
There will also be plenty of drones keeping an eye on things during the inauguration next week on Monday. I'm Richard Cantu, ABC News.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
5:05 now on this cloudy Monday afternoon. I'm Will Feelright with your KBNU News Update. As the news this hour brought to you by Roof Rescue. Well, local residents are being invited to weigh in on the Logan 2045 General Plan during a workshop that's scheduled for this Wednesday. Now, the general plan will act as a foundation for long-range decision-making, according to Mike DeSimone, who's the director of community planning for the city of Logan. He also says it'll help the city direct growth in the future and also development for the next 20 years. Now, DeSimone added that the community kickoff workshop will give residents and community stakeholders an opportunity to provide input on the update of the general plan. The workshop event is scheduled for Wednesday afternoon from 5:30 to 7 in the Logan Municipal Council chambers of City Hall. Well, coming up, when the news continues, a 31-year-old Logan man arrested for allegedly molesting a 12-year-old girl last year. I'll have that story on the way next, as we've had cloudy and cold temperatures today, highs only hitting the mid-20s. And tomorrow, not going to be much warmer, as we'll continue to see these clouds lingering overnight tonight with temperatures dropping into the low teens. Tomorrow, a little warmer as we'll get into the high 20s. Then 30s returning for Wednesday, mid-30s by Thursday, and another chance of snow coming for Friday and Saturday. Well, a 31-year-old Logan man has been arrested for allegedly molesting a 12-year-old girl in November, according to law enforcement. Mark Spencer Burns was booked Friday into the Cache County Jail. Now, according to booking paperwork, Logan City Police received a report of the offense involving the young girl back in November. The alleged victim had claimed that Burns had inappropriately touched her the night before. The girl was interviewed several days later at the Cache County Children's Justice Center and claimed how Burns had come over to her home to visit her father on the night of the incident. He had brought a bottle of alcohol and had been drinking. The alleged victim described how Burns had started touching her underneath her clothing while the two were alone down in the home's basement. Now, investigators later questioned Burns. He originally stated he didn't remember much of the night of the incident. He claimed how he had been drinking at the time and also struggles with memory lapses from prior concussions. Now, as deputies confronted Burns further, though, about the allegations, he reportedly said that he didn't want to talk about it and that he should get a lawyer. And a Salt Lake City father has been arrested after his 2-month-old son was taken to the hospital with a brain bleed. Jacob Beal, a 28-year-old, was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail last week for an investigation of aggravated child abuse. Now, the infant was reportedly taken to Primary Children's Hospital last week and was found to have bleeding on the brain in 2 places, likely caused by lack of oxygen. Now, Beal reportedly lives in a basement apartment of a residence with the child's mother, and other family members live on the main floor. Last week, relatives said that they heard the baby crying and that Beal appeared to be agitated and angry with the baby before the baby was found to be injured. You can get more on these and other stories at CashValleyDaily.com. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update. More of For the People with Jason Williams coming up next.
The colder weather is here. Are your quilts and blankets looking dingy? Is your winter coat or jacket dirty enough to stand in the corner just by itself? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen up everything. They have the 55 and 80-pound washers, the biggest around, and great big dryers, too, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town, on the corner of 5th East, 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham at 1st East, 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
The Aggies on KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
The Murdoch Auto Team is celebrating 100 years of winter journeys at Murdoch Chevrolet.
And we want to be part of your next adventure, whether you're heading to the mountains for a quick ski run or embarking on a snowy weekend getaway.
Right now, take up to $6,500 off a 2025 Silverado or up to $9,000 off a new Suburban.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family.
At Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan and Woods Cross or online at murdochchev.com. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
Call 888-391-6080 for your C dealer for complete details. Offer expires 1/31/25.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
25 NCAA championships, 18 conference championships.
And the Aggies are going dancing.
10 tournament championships.
The Aggies are pulling out the scissors, and they're going to cut down the nest.
Our winning culture continues. Our Utah State Aggies play here on the Aggie Sports Network.
Pre-game begins 1 hour before tip-off. Don't miss game day on your home of the Aggies. News Talk KVNU.
Back to KVNU's For the People. Wow. Voice cracking there, like I'm going through puberty. It'd be like the 7th or 8th time, I guess. Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams. Hour 2 of today's show. Legislative session is just around the corner. Kicks off with its first official day 1 week from tomorrow. And then lawmakers will have 45 days to cause trouble, to pass a budget, constitutionally mandated that they do that, and to do a lot of things that constituents have brought to them to propose to their colleagues on the Hill for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It is a very unique process. It's surprisingly fun to follow. Everyone laughs when I say that, but try it. Even if it's just 15, 20 minutes a couple of times a week, listen to some of the committee hearings and floor debates, either live as they happen or after the fact each evening. Either way, you can find them at le.utah.gov. 45 days sounds like a long time, but if you know what goes into the budgeting and appropriations process, into funding education, into just keeping the lights on and running the state agencies, road funding, water bills, there is so much that goes on, and 45 days goes by really fast. So we're kicking things off here. Our first official interview related to the 2025 legislative session is a person who I'm sure is not very busy or stressed at all right now. Recently elected to replace Representative Dan Johnson, representing Utah's 3rd district in the state house, basically the majority of the population of Cache Valley in Logan City, We have with us Utah House Representative for District 3, Jason Thompson, joining us. And Representative Thompson, appreciate taking some time for KVNU to do this today. I'm sure with the legislative session a week away, there are a million things you'd rather be doing with your time right now, so we do appreciate it. How's it going? How has it been getting ready for the session?
You know, Jason, it's been going awesome. You say not stressed at all, not busy, not tired. You know, the weight of the responsibility of what we've got to do, I'm definitely feeling it. I'm loving it a ton, man. I went a couple weeks ago from being in Salt Lake 1 to 2 days a week to jumping to 3 days a week to now pretty much 5 days a week. I'm in Salt Lake getting prepared for this session, but things are going remarkable. They'd be going better if I would not keep getting lost in the tunnels every day. That's my biggest problem is getting lost in the Capitol.
I've been doing this for about 16 years, and we always go down on the final day. I always manage to get lost. So it's kind of a confusing building in the way it's laid out, and then of course you're inundated with new information and decisions, and your staff handing you things left and right. I really admire anyone who can do it. Heading in as a new lawmaker, are there already a few issues that you know are going to come up that you're excited to get a chance to discuss or even vote on?
You know, it's going to be an exciting session, and I think they're all exciting, but this one's going to be really exciting. We've got. I just got my committee assignments not very long ago.
They were mean to you. They put you on the Public Education Appropriations Subcommittee. That's saying drinking from the fire hose is an understatement at that point.
It is, but I'll tell you what. There's some great resources on the Hill. There's people who know the education budget inside and out, and it's a way for me to be able to contribute to public education, which is so important to me. And it's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most is understanding the budgeting process inside now for public ed and making sure that our teachers have all the tools and resources they need to do the job that they're there to do, which is to care about our kids and teach them.
Sure. I was, all joking aside, I was excited to see that they, had placed you on that appropriations subcommittee, because I remember talking to you as a candidate, Jason, and Representative Thompson, and I remember you saying, that with Utah's growth, with Cache Valley, everything that's going to kind of change around us over the next 10, 20 years, that education is going to be so key to keeping the economy strong, to attracting businesses into Cache Valley so people have jobs. And so when they announced that you'd been appointed to that Public Education Appropriations Subcommittee, I thought someone's making good decisions there, but that has to be a bit intimidating.
It is. It is the biggest, if not the biggest, one of the biggest budgetary items in the state is our education budget. And so I'm honored to sit on the Appropriations Subcommittee for Public Education, and I'm excited, even though it is somewhat daunting and there's a lot to digest and take in, and a lot of priorities. I'm excited to be able to have some input there to make sure that our teachers are funded well.
Sure. This is, of course, a year that is going to be dominated also with housing bills, water bills, things like that. Are you apprehensive at all as the session is about to get underway? We joke all the time on the show here that everyone looks at the water here in northern Utah and just literally salivating over it, trying to find a way to get it to other parts of the state. Does that make you nervous at all as you hear some of these? Some of this rhetoric come up, or do you feel like they have a good grasp on where they want to go?
Well, I feel like there's an overall good grasp, and one of the things that I'm learning is that as a state, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, a lot of challenges, and the depth of these challenges are, some of these run pretty deep. But the other thing that I'm really excited about is that our opportunities are even greater. We have tremendous opportunities as a state to manage the growth, to make sure that we're conserving on water, that we're focusing on rebuilding our water infrastructure, and our objectives here are to say, hey, let's look at everything from providing water for our farmers to making sure that we're getting adequate water back to the Great Salt Lake. And I don't like to be pigeonholed into a corner of saying, hey, you've got to pick one or the other. I believe we can do both, and that's the policies that we're going to fight for that lead us to being able to accomplish both while protecting private property rights.
Sure. This is, as housing, I know it's just a rumor, and even the Speaker of the House, Mike Schultz, has said he doesn't believe the legislature should go there, but there is concern out there among city leaders that the legislature might dabble a bit with statewide zoning policy, things like that. It makes them nervous. And you coming from just hot out of leading a city, one of the fastest growing cities here in the Valley, and stepping into the legislature, does that give you a unique perspective to add a voice to that conversation?
Absolutely. I coming into the legislature, having served as a mayor prior, some of the biggest concerns that I have in the state legislature is federal overreach. But having concern over federal overreach, being a mayor, I'm also very concerned about having state overreach into our local cities and the decisions that our local cities need to be empowered to make for themselves. And I can say there's not a lot of talk on the Hill about, taking too much autonomy away from local cities when it comes to zoning and things right now. I think that the reality of the housing situation is really setting in. And I think it's setting in across the board with local municipalities. It's definitely setting in with the state when we have to look at how we manage the growth. But I think everybody's starting to come around to the idea that we've got to work together to find solutions on how we're going to get through the housing affordability crisis. And I think that's ultimately going to be the best way, is having us work together and plan together versus having the state come in and dictate what and how things are going to be done on a local level.
Sure. And that's going to be welcome news, I know, to a lot of local leaders. This is the way it's supposed to work, right? As you rise up through the ranks, for lack of a better phrase, in elected office, to come from that experience of having led a city as a mayor, and then to be able to go inform legislative debates on that level, it's encouraging to see. I do have to ask this, though, Representative Thompson, have you been there long enough to have anything bad to say yet about Representative Snyder? I ask everyone that.
You know what? I haven't been there long enough for anything bad to say about Representative Snyder, but I can tell you this. You don't walk into a room and have Casey not walk in the room and not have somebody talk about his height, or have him have everybody busting up laughing in one way, shape, or form.
That's
Casey,
great.
He's such a great guy. He cares tremendously about our state and our valley, and it's just an honor and a privilege to be able to work with him.
Sure. I always have to ask because he's the nicest guy, and one time I'm going to get somebody to say something mean about him. But this is also something, I almost hesitate to bring this up because I don't want word to get around and maybe then put a stop to it. But Cache Valley lawmakers, you with the Public Education Appropriations Committee, Senator Chris Wilson with some of his committee appointments in the Senate, we have, at least for the time being, some, I think, outsized influence in the legislature. Any theories as to what might be behind that? Are we just sending the best to Capitol Hill?
We are so blessed and so lucky right now to just the representation that we have in northern Utah, generally speaking, and especially in our leadership, to have, Carrie Ann Lisenby, to have Karen Peterson, to have, obviously, Speaker Schultz, to have Casey Snyder, to have Chris Wilson. A lot of our great leaders in the legislature are from northern Utah. We're tremendously blessed. We do have our voice is heard in the legislature, sure. And we have influence. And one of the things that I'm learning, I knew this coming in, but to be able to take care of District 3 to the best of our ability. It takes building relationships with everybody around you and being able to have influence on the Hill through those relationships. And I'm just grateful for the people who have kind of laid the groundwork for that in over the past decade or so that have given Northern Utah a really good position in the legislature.
Appreciate that. And for our listeners, there you have it, a legislative preview from Representative Jason Thompson. He heads into his first session officially 1 week from tomorrow. And again, you can keep up with the work of all of Cache Valley-Los lawmakers, even with the keyword searches and little reminders you can set up on legislation topics or the work of a specific lawmaker at le.utah.gov. LE for legislature, le.utah.gov. And Representative Thompson, I know it's, during the 45-day session it's busy, but I hope we get a chance to check in with you again soon during the session and see how things are going, and appreciate your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. I look forward to connecting with you as frequently as we can throughout the session. Just real quick, tomorrow night I am going to have a town hall in Richmond at Richmond City Hall at 7 o'clock. I want everybody to come out. I want to hear your voice. Want to know what's on your mind. This coming Thursday as well on USU campus, I believe it's at 6:30 at the David B. Haight Center. We're going to be having a majority caucus town hall. Casey will be there. We can make fun of his height.
Sure.
Mike Peterson will be there. Tom will be there, and I'll be there. So 6 p.m. At Utah State, the David B. Haight Center on Thursday.
Very nice. There you have it, a couple of opportunities to get out and discuss things with your lawmakers ahead of the session even. This is what makes Cache Valley great. Representative Jason Thompson, again, representing Utah's 3rd House District, Logan City proper here in Cache Valley. And you can connect with him and also track legislation, the legislative session at large, watch video and audio of committee meetings, floor time debates before or live or after the fact, all of that at le.utah.gov. And one more time, thank you to our guest, Representative Jason Thompson. I appreciate you taking some time for us today, and best of luck with the getting ready for the session.
Thanks, John, Jason. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Our pleasure. Thank you. And to our listeners, also a pleasure to have you join us today as well. Stick around. More of KVNU's For the People to come right after this.
Our military faces a crisis. Recruitment down. Morale weak. Our leaders more focused on going woke than killing terrorists and defending America. President Trump nominated Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense to change things. Hegseth isn't an insider or a swamp dweller. He's a decorated veteran of the United States Army who deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. And he's exactly who we need leading the Department of Defense. Hegseth will ban woke nonsense from our armed forces, strengthen our military, and make our soldiers proud to serve. Call your United States Senator at 202-224-3121. Tell them stand with Trump. Confirm Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. Again, call your senator at 202-224-3121. Tell them to vote to confirm Pete Hegseth and make our military great again. Paid for by American Leadership PAC.
This is Detective Johnson from the Logan City Police Department. Scams in our community are on the rise and innocent victims are losing thousands of dollars. These scams are coming in the form of phony phone calls claiming to be from government organizations or legitimate businesses. They are also circulating on social media and emails. Almost all of these scams are asking for payment through gift cards that are almost impossible to track. No legitimate business or organization uses gift cards as currency. If you receive a scam of this nature, do not give the scammers any information and immediately call police. Remember, pause, stop, call a cop.
25 NCAA championships, 18 conference championships,
And the Aggies are going dancing.
10 tournament championships.
The Aggies are pulling out the scissors, and they're going to cut down the nest.
Our winning culture continues. Our Utah State Aggies play here on the Aggie Sports Network.
Pre-game begins 1 hour before tip-off. Don't miss game day on your home of the Aggies. News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. little bit of news relevant to Cache Valley, very relevant to Cache Valley, that we didn't get a chance to talk about last week as it was announced, because they announced it late Thursday afternoon, and we had a full show already planned Friday. But the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, via a press release late Thursday afternoon last week, announced a new state veterinarian named Dr. Amanda Price. According to the press release, formerly the assistant state veterinarian, Price, who is, so outgoing state veterinarian is Daniel Christensen. So she's been working with him as assistant state veterinarian for a while now. And in the press release, Price said, "I look forward to continuing to work with agricultural producers in Utah. I've found that the most important part of the job is not only to protect the animals, but to build relationships with the farmers and ranchers and earn their trust so we can better serve them in the agriculture and food industry as a whole." Price was educated at the University of California, Davis, got a doctorate there in veterinary medicine and animal science, a master's as well, and worked for, I believe this is a private organization, Lander Veterinary Clinic in California for about 15 years, the press release said, and then joined the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food then. And our own, I still say, Craig Butters, former Cache County executive and current Utah Department of Agriculture and Food commissioner, in the press release said, Dr. Price has been a great asset to the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food and the agriculture producers in the state of Utah for the last 5 years as assistant state veterinarian, and we are excited for her to take on responsibilities of a state veterinarian moving forward. That's going to be, I think, good news for a lot in agriculture here in northern Utah who have worked and I'm sure met or at least talked with the state veterinarian, especially the large producers, those with a lot going on each year. The state veterinarian can be a really, really useful resource. And the fact that there isn't going to be a complete change-up in the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food when it comes to the state veterinarian office, that the assistant veterinarian that you've gotten to know over the years is just going to take up that responsibility as the current state veterinarian retires. That's going to be good news. So, again, via press release last week, announced Dr. Amanda Price, current Utah State Assistant Veterinarian, going to be stepping into the role officially next week of the Utah State Veterinarian. And I assume we'll then be hiring an assistant herself. So check it out. I have posted a link to the press release from Craig Butters and the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food on our Facebook page. And we'll be back with more of KVN News for the People on the other side of these headlines with KVN News Will Feel Right.
Thank you, Jason. News and weather this hour brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Well, a bill has been introduced ahead of the legislative session that could end the back-and-forth clock changes by moving Utah off of daylight saving time. Now, Representative Joseph Eliason, a Republican from Tokerville, has filed House Bill 120, which has Utah observing standard time like Arizona and Hawaii. Now, strangely enough, daylight saving time is one of the top constituent complaints that's logged by staffers at Utah's Capitol Hill. But in the face of a multi-billion-dollar budget and more pressing issues facing the state, bills addressing it always become the lowest priority. Now, a bill to move Utah to permanent daylight saving passed in 2020, but nothing has happened with it. Congresswoman Celeste Malloy has introduced a bill, but no action has taken yet. Now, Representative Eliason said that he is only responding to his constituents, and while there's been widespread support for stopping the back-and-forth clock changes, what has ignited the most debate is whether people prefer lighter later or darker earlier. Representative Eliason said the reason that he's proposing moving to a standard time is because it's what Utah can control. Well, a man was arrested in Utah over the weekend after leading deputies on a high-speed chase and making bizarre comments during his arrest. Authorities say the investigation began early on Saturday morning around 2:45 when a Utah County Sheriff's deputy was alerted of a vehicle pursuit involving a silver Honda CR-V with Texas license plates. Now, the deputy spotted the suspect vehicle and a chase ensued along I-15. At one point, the driver exceeded speeds of 110 miles an hour. Now, that driver, later identified as 25-year-old Tyler James Flynn, was later found parked at a convenience store parking lot. Now, the deputy reportedly exited his patrol vehicle and confronted Flynn while aiming his gun at him. Flynn complied with the deputy's orders and was placed under arrest. But during the arrest, court documents noted that Flynn appeared unfazed and even smirked. And when asked why he was so calm, Flynn reportedly said he was just having fun with law enforcement. And a Uinta County man was arrested after being found transporting over $550,000 of methamphetamine and other illegal drugs from Phoenix to Denver. Now, this all happened during a Utah County traffic stop last week. At around 4 o'clock on Wednesday, a Utah County Sheriff's deputy was traveling northbound on I-15 near Mona and observed a blue Toyota Tundra that was towing a trailer. Now, the deputy pulled over the vehicle, made contact with the driver, identified as 42-year-old Ashley Atwood of Vernal. The deputy noted that Atwood seemed very nervous, and a canine was deployed to sniff the exterior of the vehicle and alerted law enforcement of the presence of drugs. Now, law enforcement searched the vehicle and said they found over 60 pounds of meth valued at over $550,000, along with heroin, cocaine, and other drug paraphernalia. Now, Atwood was booked into the Utah County Jail. Well, we've had cold temperatures and clouds and even a few snowflakes this afternoon, as temperatures have only been in the mid-20s today. Tonight we'll drop back into the teens, and tomorrow a little warmer as we'll hit the mid to high 20s, and then 30s coming for Wednesday. Thursday, a little warmer as we'll hit the mid to high 30s, and then see another chance of snow coming for Friday and Saturday, with cold temperatures returning for Saturday night. I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News Update.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. A special counsel's report on Hunter Biden is out.
The special counsel who investigated the president's son says he brought the charges against Hunter Biden because, quote, he broke the law. David Weiss says the unanimous jury who convicted Hunter Biden of gun charges agreed, and Biden himself pleaded guilty to tax violations. In his final report, Weiss takes particular issue with the president's statement that accompanied his pardon of his son. That statement called the prosecution of Hunter selective, unfair, and a miscarriage of justice. Weiss calls the president's words gratuitous and wrong.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy in Washington. Federal public health officials report high levels nationwide of respiratory illnesses. 6 states listed as very high, 29 more listed as high, up from 24 last week. A group representing illegal miners says at least 100 of them died of suspected starvation and dehydration after being trapped deep underground in a gold mine, abandoned gold mine, for months.
Nestled in the heart of breathtaking landscape, Maple Creek Ranch on the north end of Cache Valley is more than just land. It's where your story begins. It's the perfect location for building your dream home. But only a few lots remain, so act now to claim your piece of paradise. Imagine mornings with breathtaking views, evenings by the fire, and every moment surrounded by the peaceful charm of nature. With stunning views, babbling brooks, and miles of wilderness. Google Maple Creek Ranch to learn more about these final few lots.
Are you in need of excellent surgical care? Budge Clinic General Surgery offers the future of surgery with state-of-the-art robotic-assisted procedures. From cancer treatments to surgical needs, they've got you covered. Call Budge Clinic General Surgery today, 435-716-1950, to schedule a consultation and experience the best possible outcome. Trust Drs. Anderson, Marshall, McKenna, and Peterson, the experts at Budge Clinic General Surgery, helping people live the healthiest lives possible.
Finding effective and affordable insurance solutions can be stressful. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. As a kid growing up, my father, Gordon, took care of my insurance, and I knew I never needed to worry. I was covered. I've continued to provide that same service for my clients at Quality First. My team of experienced agents work hard to ensure every customer gets the help they need. Let's sit down and take the stress out of your insurance. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News, the latest on the fight against wildfires in the Los Angeles area, plus how officials are also fighting online conspiracy theories, lies, and half-truths. Also, why Republicans, specifically young men, are embracing cryptocurrency as an investment. You'll hear their stories. And one of the most effective ways to get noticed on the job. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Just a really quick calendar item for those who might be interested. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. At the Perry Pavilion, USU leadership and Professor Burton Earnshaw, an AI founding fellow at something called Recursion Pharmaceuticals, current director of the Valence Lab as well, will be the keynote speaker at an event 3 p.m. tomorrow at the Perry Pavilion at Utah State University, on Utah State University campus. And this is to celebrate the grand opening of something called the Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Center. Described as a collaborative organization, Utah State University hopes to kind of address some emerging questions and problems when it comes to data and AI. Kevin Moon, the announced director of the DSAI Center and an associate professor of mathematics at Utah State University, spoke about this recently when the announcement was first made last December. He said, the goal here is to foster collaboration across disciplines, creating a, quote, nexus of researchers and educators to build a stronger data science and AI community at USU. And he said it's often hard to identify researchers working in data science and AI across campus. So this is to bridge that gap, making it easier for faculty, students, and even external collaborators to connect and innovate. And this is so 4 different departments: math and statistics, electrical and computer engineering, data analytics, information systems, and computer science, all teaming up to form this new center. And that's what stood out to me, because so we talk about AI a lot, and you know, in politics, for example, it's already popped up in fake robocalls, faking people's voices. A man going to jail actually in Texas for running a robocall that was falsified voice of Joe Biden. He's going to prison actually for that one. But we've seen it pop up. Sports Illustrated set their entire reputation on fire by publishing on their website AI-written articles, not AI-edited articles, not articles that were partially informed by AI. You know, say you're a journalist writing an article about this pipeline project in Logan City, but you want to include in the article something about why the costs are what they are. And so you can use artificial intelligence to say, you know, why is it so expensive to bury a pipeline? That's, I think, a proper use of artificial intelligence in a journalism setting, to just add flair to an article or additional information that isn't key to the story but might be interesting for listeners. Fine. But Sports Illustrated was using it to write the entire article. They dump a few tidbits of factual information in and say, write me an article, a magazine-style article on this topic, and then AI would. And then they made up bylines. They made up people to put on the bylines. Anyway, so they rightfully got chastised and mocked when they were caught doing that. And that's how I think most of us are being exposed to discussions about AI. But again, back to this news release from USU, the departments of math and statistics, electrical and computer engineering, data analytics and information systems, and computer science. Basically, everything that is our world and is the future of our world, in our jobs and our cars and our houses and our smart thermostats and more. That's it. That this is part of everything going forward. Utah State Legislature is going to try and tackle this again this year. They took a bite out of this pie last year, to their credit, and passed a few, kind of bare bones regulations on artificial intelligence, like how it ways that it would be illegal to use AI in advertising here in Utah, things like that. They plan to go further this year. They say they've gotten up to speed. They've brought some experts in. They've gotten better informed on the issue. And so expect a few more AI-related bills this year, but it's moving fast. And here is Utah State University not only acknowledging that, a land-grant university needs to be a part of this discussion and a part of the research on this, not even just the research developing and perfecting AI, but research into its application, its ethical questions, and more. USU launching this center to do exactly that. So if you would like a little snippet of the future, at least from the perspective of a research university, training and educating young people to go out into the workforce, that's 3 p.m. tomorrow, and AI's role in that, by the way. That's 3 p.m. tomorrow at the Perry Pavilion on USU's campus, and this, again, is part of an announcement or an open house and grand opening for the center after its announcement in early December. So I've linked to that on our Facebook page, by the way, if you would like to see more. One other item. I mentioned in Hour 1 that the United States Supreme Court had declined to hear the last possible, they tried them all, challenge from now multiple-time failed gubernatorial candidate Phil Lyman. He tried to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. He wanted Cox tossed out of office for collecting signatures to get on the ballot. Claims that that's not legal here in Utah. The problem is this has been litigated before, and the United States Supreme Court basically said, yeah, we're not going to discuss this. The state Supreme Court has said, we've litigated this and ruled. If you'd like to try and change the state law, talk to your lawmakers, which Phil used to be. He isn't anymore because he ran for governor. So it's over for the Lyman camp. There was another decision today, though, and I don't think this one is over. We'll see. But as a taxpayer, I'm kind of annoyed. So you probably saw through the summer some ads. One that made me laugh every time. It was a family. This part isn't funny because my family, when I was a kid, we've been in this situation. But there was a family, and the premise of the commercial is they're gearing up for a vacation, and they all load in, and apparently it's like extended family. They all load into this gigantic RV, the biggest one you can buy. It's basically a bus. And then they head out on these little tiny dirt roads in southern Utah, and tragically they run into a chain gate that says the road is closed by the federal government. And so the point of the ad is to gin up your anger at the federal government, get you all, pitchfork and torches and stuff like that, and support the state's lawsuit to reclaim all of the public lands in Utah, something that all available research says the state cannot afford to do unless we're going to auction them off to private bidders, something that I think most people in Utah would oppose if you actually saw what the map would look like when we're done doing that. Tilting at windmills. The legislature gets this wild hair every 10 years, it seems like. The last time was in 2014, Ken Ivory's American Lands Council, which was basically just scamming counties for $3,000 a month or a year, $5,000 a year for some counties, cash, and promising to sue the federal government into the ground to reclaim these lands. It was never going to happen. The legislature's own attorneys said, this is ridiculous. It's never going to happen. And yet all this money, taxpayer and otherwise, the state spent $250,000 of your money to pay an organization to run ads back in 2014, basically saying that the state was right. Yeah, how did that? How do you feel about that $250,000 investment? By the way, the firm that was paid doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah, so here we are 10 years later, and the state's just doing it straight up in house. They paid to run these ads. What made me laugh, by the way, about that commercial is this gigantic bus-sized RV on this tiny little dirt road in supposedly southern Utah. They don't identify the place, but some of the outcroppings and rock structures you can see around them, it's obviously southern Utah. And all I could think was, you shouldn't be out there in that period. Even if the federal government BLM in this case hadn't closed the road with a chain sign, you shouldn't be out there in that behemoth, because you're going to cost the taxpayers of Utah a lengthy search and rescue retrieval trip. When you get that thing out there and try to turn it around in some soft sand, which you know the driver was going to do, and then they're stuck, and then search and rescue has to go out and get them, and we pay for that. That's what I thought every time I saw that commercial. It was the dumbest commercial, and you paid for it. Taxpayers, at the in the wisdom of the state legislature, you bought that dumb commercial. Well, it was all for naught, as the attorneys tried to tell them in the first place. U.S. Supreme Court today refused to hear Utah's challenge against public lands. This is the Salt Lake Tribune described it as a major blow. This is the death blow to the state's efforts to reclaim these millions of acres of land. And you know what makes me mad about this? What really makes me angry, even more angry than the taxpayer dollars, is that the state has a point. But we've never had that conversation because of shenanigans like this. Lawsuits to reclaim control from the federal government were never going to happen. You know what could have happened? What could have happened is the state could have been having a productive conversation about federal mismanagement of lands, or certain areas of the state that are public lands that should be more accessible to the public as public lands, but they aren't because the federal government isn't investing enough in managing those lands. And then you sit down like adults at a table and you say, maybe the state could manage here or there. Maybe the state could play a role here. And in exchange, the state wants the federal government to step away from managing that parcel of land. That conversation could have been going on every single day for the last 10 years. But instead, again, in the wisdom of the state legislature overall, we got American Lands Council Ponzi scheme in 2014 that just made Representative Ken Ivory a lot of money, bilked counties and their taxpayers out of these membership fees that went nowhere, just as the attorneys for the legislature predicted it would. And then here we are 10 years later. We're not even outsourcing it to paying marketing firms and bilking the counties anymore. The state legislature is just literally taking it out of the budget and running these ads of giant RVs driving on dirt roads they have no business being on at that size and weight. And it comes to the same end. This United States Supreme Court, the most right-leaning U.S. Supreme Court in our lifetimes, the court that, if any court was going to be, would be most friendly to the idea of states taking over management of land that became part of federal government management because of more than 200-year-old agreements, said no. The U.S. Supreme Court today said it's not going to happen. The filing, which state leaders said would result in, quote, decades of legal analysis from the state. That was the promise, that this is not going to be quick and it's going to be debated for decades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The United States Supreme Court just said, no, it's not. Their reasoning is kind of interesting. Their reasoning is basically that now this isn't like an official ruling from the court. A ruling would be lengthy and arguments would be made and more. But there were hints previous from justices and comments they'd made. So the refusal today was just the Supreme Court saying, we're not even going to discuss it. We're not even going to hear this. What we do know about where the court sits, Alito said some things. Some of the newer members have said some things. But basically it comes down to the same thing, that these were agreements that these states made, Utah included, when they joined the Union, when they joined the United States of America. And if we're going to start just kind of tossing those things out, Alito said once, on the whims of current state leadership, well, then those agreements didn't mean anything in the first place. And at that point, what does the Union mean? What does the United States of America mean? He was very firm in that statement, saying, no, these might be old, hundreds of years old, but these were agreements that were made to join the Union, to become a part of the United States. And I, as a Supreme Court justice, Alito said, have no intention of ever raising my hand in support of overturning such agreements. Those agreements, old or not, are what made this country happen. I don't know if Alito was the final vote or the decision maker in and of himself on the U.S. Supreme Court's refusal to hear Utah's challenge against federal management of public lands in the state, but pretty firm. I think the state thought they would agree to hear it, and then the state would get a chance to make arguments, and there would be counter arguments, of course, and then they'd argue, and it'd get a lot of attention and bring this more into the public's eye. And the United States Supreme Court today just basically said, no, we're not even going to discuss it with you. That's this court saying that. State lawmakers, Governor Cox, it is time to give it up. Not the effort to better manage public lands in Utah, because there are cases where the federal government is definitely dropping the ball. But we're wasting our time going about it this way. And we just spent 10, 11 years learning that lesson twice. We'll be back right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Did you know Utah is #1 in the nation for economy, fiscal stability, education, and overall lifestyle? So when it comes to banking, stick with the local professionals who know what Utahns need. Bank of Utah's knowledgeable team provides expert guidance and personalized solutions. Whether you're saving for the future, growing a business, or just need help managing your money. No matter what your financial situation is, turn to Bank of Utah as your first choice and most trusted financial partner. Bank of Utah. My Utah, my bank. Member FDIC.
If you think you're too young to worry about heart disease, think again. I'm Essence Harris, and I was 30 when an angiogram found a 90% blockage in 2 arteries. Now I'm asking all women to take control of their heart health. Exercise, eat a heart-healthy diet, and above all, listen to your body. Learn more at womenheart.org.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then, someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
I'm Ed Horrell, author of The Kindness Revolution. I've got a little suggestion for you this week. Take a moment to visit a classroom somewhere. If it takes going to an open house at a school, a PTA meeting, or simply making an appointment to meet with your child's teacher, do it. And while you're there, make it a point to say thank you to as many of the faculty and staff that are supporting the futures of these kids. To learn more, check us out at thekindnessrevolution.net.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. We'll be counting down the days until Donald Trump is officially sworn in. 6 days until the big inauguration. All the absolute latest. Plus, Pete Hegseth begins his confirmation hearings, and we'll give you the absolute latest on the continued L.A. wildfires. All that and more, Tuesday edition, Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
As the wildfires continue to burn through California, and as I mentioned earlier, as weather reports, National Weather Service reactivating what they call something that could become a disastrous situation. The wind's picking back up, possibly with gusts over 70 miles per hour tonight, and that reactivated warning in effect until Wednesday mornings. Fingers crossed for everyone down there. In Southern California, already so much devastation and possibly firing back up tonight. Bad choice of words there, but Anyway, with that in mind, Cash Humane Society, as well as the Humane Society of Utah and SNARF, as they're called, are teaming up to find homes for SNARF is the Spay, Neuter, Adopt, Rescue, Foster program here in Utah, including Cash Humane Society and Humane Society of Utah at large, accepting animals from Southern California. Now, all efforts are made, of course, to identify an animal and see if they can contact or return it to its original owner. But if an animal is found abandoned and in need of care, or his life is at risk, they're collected. And after all efforts have been exhausted to contact an owner, but if it's not chipped, if someone doesn't reach out looking for a specific pet, there's only so much they can do. What eventually happens is they get shipped all over the country and in search of a home. So the Best Friends Animal Society, based out of Kanab here in Utah, they have already accepted 33 pets from California, currently staying at their Southern Utah Sanctuary this week. And spokesperson Aaron Connors said another 40 are coming Saturday. And they're making room for these, Southern California pets by transferring some of their current residents to rescue groups in Utah and Idaho, throughout Utah and Idaho, and then find them homes. So the Cash Humane Society here in Cache Valley is going to be helping out with that, apparently. They're going to be freeing up some of their space, or offering up some of their available space to store animals that were currently being housed at the Best Friends Animal Society shelter in Kanab. And then that will allow the Best Friends in Kanab to focus on finding homes for these animals coming out of California. So what they're asking the public to do on this, well, first off, if you're looking for a pet, sheltered pets are the way to go. I've had a few in my life, and you cannot go wrong. That little dog, it was one I'll never forget. But they always need help. Right now, of course, taking in these pets from California, they need even more. So ways you can help, you can, of course, donate either to Best Friends Animal Society of Utah or to the Cash Humane Society to help them with the work they're doing. But also spread the word. If you know someone looking for a pet, if you yourself are looking for a pet, I know there are a lot of options out there, but don't overlook the shelter pet option. Save a pet's life, help them continue to do the good work they do, and get a really cool animal. I'm telling you, nothing beats a mutt. Heinz 57, they also call them. Best dogs you can get. But also some purebreds and more can be found there. But thanks to Cash Humane Society for stepping up on this. Again, Cash Humane teaming up with Best Friends Animal Society out of Kanab to free up space and house some of these animals coming out of Los Angeles after the devastation of these fires. And you can help Cash Humane and the Humane Society of Utah do what they do with a donation at cashhumane.org or with adopting a pet, spreading the word, and more.